Hello, good evening and welcome to your weekly business and economic analysis program, Business Focus, live here on TV3. My name is Pakwesi Asare and it's Business Focus. We'll start off with the summaries, essentially top business news stories making headlines throughout the day. What are we looking at this week? We're talking about the recent news about the resignation of the second deputy governor of the central bank. I'm sure you've heard that news. It dominated headlines sometime last week. So Dr. Isiama is no more at the central bank. He has assigned a number of reasons to his decision to resign from the central bank. This comes barely a year after the governor himself, Dr. Itahaku, also resigned from the central bank. We want to look at the implications and what this means briefly. We'll also look at 2018. Starting your year right, what do you need to do as a business person to get all the good deals of 2018? My guest in the studio tonight, Dr. Lord Mensah, is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. I'll also be joined later on by Reverend Dr. Albert Okran. He's a management consultant, as well as Charles Mensah, his chief executive officer of the Transconsult. We've got all these coming up in the next 45 to 50 minutes. My name is Pakwesi Asare. We'll take a short break. We're back. Hello and welcome back to Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program live here on TV3. My name is Pakwesi Asare. We begin with our very first subject for the day, and that has to do with the recent news about the resignation of the Deputy Central Bank Governor, Dr. Isiama. My guest in the studio to help me to do this discussion is Dr. Lord Mensah. He's with the University of Ghana Business School. Doc, before we come to that subject, let me quickly just pick your thoughts on the general economic environment, macroeconomic environment for 2017.
Well, if you look at 2017 with all the indicators and basically you relate that to 2016, you realize that trend-wise we've grown, systematically from the first quarter of 2017 all the way down to the third quarter. And you could see an improvement in the detailed indicators like the foreign exchange stability that we are enjoying, even though we're getting to Christmas festivities. At the same time, you can see interest rate also coming down. And what is most important is treasury bill rate that is coming down. You could see that it gives a signal that government's intention to compete for funds availability with the private sector is gradually reducing, which is more or less giving investor confidence, you can say. And then also inflation, you can see inflation also coming down. And trend-wise, we've been growing. But then I will say that the growth is not that inclusive. If I say growth not being inclusive, what I mean is we need growth that will engage, all and sundry. I mean, looking at the country, we're talking about unemployment situation here. We are growing as an economy, but the growth is not well diversified. We have sectors that are driving the growth. And these sectors can only engage very few people. So you can see the youth band, those who have finished university and all those highly skilled being unemployed. And we see the growth, in this country as of 2017, mainly driven by, oil and gas sector lifting itself by 72.2%, which, I mean, how many people are engaged in this sector? Right. Let me put it that way. Okay. I think the government is on course in a sense that they've rolled out policies that more or less try to diversify the growth. You can see planting for food and jobs policy. If it is implemented, effectively to the latter, I think we can see that growth that we yearn for. I mean, that growth that is inclusive, because agriculture, we know the benefit that is sent to our homes. So I would say that, we are not doing bad as a country, but then I think we need policy alignment to ensure that the growth gets to the people. All
right, let's just go back to our very essential topic for the day, which has to do with the resignation of the central bank. Let me speak to Dr. Joe Jackson. He's on the phone lines with that. Doc, let me start off on this particular issue with you, the resignation of the deputy governor of the central bank. Were you surprised by the news?
No, I wasn't really surprised by the news. Remember that there's a new wind blowing through the central bank, and it's a positive wind because it's taking on head first all the challenges that they had, and so that there are resignations at the very top did not surprise me. In fact, if anything, I still expect that there may be a few who, if they don't see things from the new governor's way, from the new wind, they may also have to end up leaving. But it's a positive wind that is blowing, and we've got to support the new governor.
Positive, you say? That's quite interesting. I mean, for someone like you who's been in the financial market, why would you consider the resignation, especially when you consider the circumstances surrounding his resignation? Indeed, I read a statement from his lawyers on Friday indicating that the man was essentially pushed out of the central bank.
But if you look at the statement carefully, was anything illegal done? Did the lawyers allege anything illegal? No. No, and the central bank is moving in the right direction. Hello?
But Doc, I mean, Mr. Jackson, look, within a space of 2 years, we've had about 3 governors of the central bank resign, and you call that positive news? In other jurisdictions, we know the impact of such resignations on the economy, on the financial markets.
Listen to this also. In those 3 years, those of us in the market knew how bad our institutions were. And none of these governors was prepared to face up to this challenge and either close the institutions down or force them to recapitalize.
But the reasons, Mr. Jackson,
so on the other hand, look at it this way. What if I put to you that the past governors let problems slide? And you know what? Letting problems slide does not reassure the market. What reassures the market is that you are prepared to face these problems head on.
But Mr. Jackson, that's a bit unfair, to say the least, because the resignations of all these governors, we haven't been told, is due to their competence or incompetence. None of that. What we hear, the speculations rife in the media, is that Dr. Isaac Haku, for instance, is a known NDC face. You know, he's close to the former president. Dr. Isiama is also a known figure. You know, he plays within the circles of the National Democratic Congress. So a lot of these reasons assigned to the resignation of the governors, speculatively, is primarily due to politics and has nothing to do with their competence or otherwise.
But I'm not talking about the politics at all. I am saying that during this era, or the previous eras, there were challenges in the financial industry, and the governors or the powers that be did not face up to those challenges.
What challenges are you talking about?
The challenges about the poor capitalization of our banks, the challenges about institutions who didn't deserve to be to exist, because they had eaten up shareholders' funds and they had eaten into depositors' funds. Specifically, I'm talking about the actions taken against UT and Capital Bank. And I'm saying that these were facing our problems on, about the huge amounts of non-performing loans because of the energy sector. All these issues were there and were not being faced up to.
And
so
you are saying...
Unfortunately, forgive me, but I'm not talking about politics at all. I'm just talking plainly about challenges in the financial sector and whether the previous administrations were facing, or the governors, etc., were facing up to these challenges. We had a head buried in the sand approach. Right now, hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Right now, we are facing up to our problems, and we are fixing them. That, I assure you, reassures the market. And there's a lot more work to be done. Our financial system was this close to collapse.
But, Mr. Jackson, you know, perception...
So forgive me.
Hold on, Mr. Jackson. Hold on for me, Mr. Jackson.
Hypocritical tears about those who are leaving.
Mr. Jackson, Mr. Jackson.
I will be far more interested about those who are staying and are going to help fix the problem.
Mr. Jackson, you know, perception matters a lot in the financial markets, which you know pretty well about. You know also that out there, what the general Ghanaian thinks is not about whether or not Dr. Isiama or Dr. Isaac Haku left matters unattended to in terms of allowing the city to slide, in terms of allowing institutions to go unchecked. Most people actually think that they were removed because of politics, or they were forced to resign because of politics.
That's why you talk to people like us, who are a little bit more discerning, who are telling your listening and viewing public right now that go beyond the obvious and look at how our financial system was performing and the challenges we had, and are they being fixed? Because otherwise we are just pandering to the politics that are destroying, the partisan politics that are destroying this country. I don't care about your politics. I only care that the financial institutions and the financial system is being fixed.
So you call it a positive development in the financial sector?
Listen. What I'm saying is that right now, and let's be frank, if the governor had resigned again, then I would be worried. This is a deputy governor. A deputy governor who was there when all these issues were happening, and we had a head in sand approach. If he decides to resign and nothing illegal was done, I don't have a problem with it.
So for you, it's not such a big deal as the governor himself resigning?
No, if the governor resigns, then it would be a big deal.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Joe Jackson, for joining us on the line on this particular matter. Dr. Lord Mensah, you agree with him?
No, I don't. Not at all.
Okay.
I have a reason for this, and it's basically economic reasons. If you look at the rate at which our governors resign, you look at every single regime has favorite that is put, and then favorite that resign. Governors that resign during their era. It sends a signal. I don't know how, investors in this country process this kind of information and how it fits into our market. You realize that most of these things happen and it never fits into our market because the market does not respond to information. So if you look at, other jurisdictions, how, governors resign, this should tell you that there's kind of information that is not to the public, view, that is up there. I call it strong form of information, in a sense that it doesn't get to us anyway. But then in the end, something is boiling out there that is what? Manifesting in a form of resignations, chains of resignations that we've had so far. Now, other environment that you see governors resigning, it has, impact on investor confidence.
That's governors.
Yes.
This is a deputy governor.
Of course, it's part of the chain. If you look at governor, deputy governor, we're here when the governor resigned, isn't it? What happened to our market? Nothing. There was no response here and there.
So it really means nothing at the end of the day.
It would mean, but then in the long term, you don't know how those informations, build up into our market and into our economic activities. There might be a reason why, a governor or a deputy governor would decide to resign. Like in your earlier presentation, you mentioned that he's being pushed to resign.
That's according to him.
Right. Now, being pushed to resign and resigning voluntarily, they are two different things. If you are being pushed to resign, it tells you that there's something boiling up there which is not to the public view. And into that sense, every single investor, that is what, putting money in our environment will panic.
Not necessarily. I mean, if you heard Mr. Joe Jackson say, ever since this new government came into power, a lot of the fundamentals have been in place. And so it's not as you say it will be.
The fundamentals are not necessarily as a result of the activities of the current administration.
How do you know that?
Let me put it
the
this
fact
way.
that inflation has consistently declined.
It has consistently
the fact
declined.
That
but then there were
exchange rate
measures
has
in place.
been relatively stable over a one-year period.
The
fact that treasury bill rates have gone down. The fact that you are not having the private sector to compete with government for loans on the local market.
Let's put it this way. If you understand economics as a continuous process, you come to realize that some of the indicators, the favorability and then, how they are performing now, most of the measures were measures that were taken somewhere in 2016. Trust me. Because 2016, from 3 years ago all the way down, you realize that going to IMF instills some financial discipline in terms of government spending, in terms of, how we can control our money supply and all those, and, even drumming of the independence of the central bank. Now, if we have times that when a particular administration comes to power, talking about the executive, and you see a governor resigning, deputies being replaced here and there, you come to realize that the dynamics are going for favorite. And when it happens like that, the confidence in our economy, for me, if I should process that information, I will tell you that it's not an environment where you can be sure that the independence of the central bank, if we have it, is supposed to be in quote. We don't have it in this country.
Some would say you need to look
it has been compromised.
You need to look at the caliber of the replacement. I mean, look, Mr. What's his name? Addison.
Addison, yeah.
Is quite an accomplished banker. He's worked at the central bank for a very long time. And so, Dr. Ishahaku and Dr. Isiama are not the only two people who can actually manage the central bank. There are people who are also very qualified who can do that work.
We understand that, where you know very well that every, person who has been appointed is competent. Ishahaku was competent as well. You look at deputies that were going with him, they were all competent. We understand that during their era we had economic issues here and there. We have the financial system, not performing as it's supposed to be. But then in the end, we're looking at technicalities. We're looking at how central bank independence can be achieved and how the independence of the central bank influences economic decisions. Remember the role that the central bank plays in this country.
To wrap up this conversation, you are not pretty excited about what's happening at the central bank.
Yes.
What do we need to do? What's the way forward, really?
Now, for me, I think we need to dissociate completely, the appointment of the central bank, top hierarchy from, our politics. It will help us.
You think it's political?
I see that it to be political. Yes, I see that to be political.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Lord Mensah, is with the University of Ghana Business School, helping us to explore this matter into greater detail, we also spoke to Joe Jackson, who is with Dalex Finance. You're still watching Business Focus live here on TV through your weekly business and economic analysis program. We'll go for a short commercial break. When we return, how do we start our year right? It's a major subject that's troubling the minds of most people. We've just finished celebrating the Christmas. Lots of expenditure. Mind you, school fees have to be paid, rent bills have to be paid, lots of bills. We'll come back and find answers to all these questions. We're back shortly. You're welcome back to Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program live here on TV3. Thanks very much for joining us. My name is Pakwesi Asare. My guest to help us do the discussion on starting your year right is Reverend Albert Ocran. He's a management consultant, and Mr. Charles Mensah is the Chief Executive Officer of the Trust Consult. I'll start with you, Uncle Charles. So in my preamble, just before we went on the break, I started by saying, look, there's been a lot of expenditure during the Christmas season. We've started a new year. There are bills to be paid. There are rents to be settled. How do you go about it?
Thank you very much. I think basically anybody going through that meal would have planned that way back in December or November, because you don't wait for the festive occasion before you start planning. Your plans should happen 2 months, 3 months ahead of time. Now, be as it may, if indeed you had borrowed or you had bought things on credit, this is a time that probably you have to figure out how you're going to pay those things. It means that it has to come from a certain quarters, your income. Now you've got to look at your income levels. If your income level is not that much, that means that you have to do certain things correctly. But this is also a period where you have to sit with your spouse, if you have one, or you have to sit with the family to discuss expenditure pacting. Because yes, we've come out of the vacation. It was only 4 days, but we spent so much money. We have fees to be paid. We have household expenditure to be incurred. So you need to be real. I mean, you need to come to conclusion and speak to your family and say, look, we have a challenge. And then once you have a challenge, this is how I'm going to solve it. Hopefully, if indeed you are working in certain quarters or certain companies and your bonuses were planned to be paid in January, February, you are likely to get extra income to go and service it. If not, you probably have to look at a way of negotiating with the people that you are owing to spread the payment over a period of time. If you have any surplus assets that you have in the house, this is time that you offload those assets and then use it to incur, to use it to pay your expenditure.
I'll come back to you so we can also look further into issues of investment and all that. Mr. Albert Ocran, thank you also for joining us. Mr. Albert Ocran also runs Legacy and Legacy?
Absolutely.
Great. How do you start your year right?
Thank you very much, Pakwesi. So starting the year right is important because the kind of start you have determines how the year will pan out. And so a bad start or a poor start invariably will ultimately affect the progress in the year. For corporates, I will say that the turn of the year is a very important time for deep reflection and for projection. It is not for It's not surprising that many companies around this time have their strategic retreats and take time off the routine day-by-day activities to separate themselves to look at their mission and their vision and their strategic plans and how they are pursuing them. I would say that for corporates, this is a good time to, number one, review your mission and your vision and ask yourself, are we doing what we were set out up to do? Because it is possible that in the maze of daily running around, a company can begin to do things that you were not originally slated to do, and you find yourself veering off your original intent or the original purpose for which you were set up. And so this time provides a good time for the company to review your mission. What were we set up to do? Are we progressing along the lines on which we were set up? And then also, how are we aligned? How well is our strategy aligned with our operations? Do we have the right people? You mentioned earlier on about team changes or staff changes or management changes. Have we lost personnel who are key to our operation? Should we do some replacement? Or do we even have the right people in the right places handling key roles in the organization? Sometimes you've worked together for a while, so you assume that, well, everybody is in place. But take time to look at department by department. Do we have the right HR person? Do we have the right person handling our operations? And these times provide an opportunity to reflect and to make the necessary changes. But one big thing that I would like to mention on the corporate front is an assessment of the organizational culture. Does the culture that we have, is it productive to the cause or inimical to the cause? Because really, you will find out that sometimes when you do that kind of review, you will find that things are not being delivered on time. The promise you make to your customers, you say you will deliver this thing in 48 hours, in 24 hours, in a week. It is being done twice the time that is in promise, but you're not taking time to review, so you're not realizing why you're losing business. Have new people come into the market providing better solutions? So basically for the corporates, it's a good time to review what you're doing and ask yourself, are you delivering on your mandate?
I'll come back to you, Albert, on how you can effectively, actualize these plans beyond just the rhetorics. Charles, so you were talking about how to plan, the new year in terms of if you owe somebody, what you need to do and blah, blah, blah. Assuming you spent everything during the Christmas period and you just realize that you've got to settle your kids' school fees. You've got 3 kids. You've got to settle their fees. You've got to pay your rent. I mean, how do you go about this?
I mean, you can't spend out of nothing. So, indeed, when you're spending during the Christmas holidays, you ought to have probably projected that there's some income coming to you in January. The only challenge would be whether the income will be enough to meet the expenditure that you are going to incur in January. Where it is that you have fees to pay, fortunately, if your kids are in the SHS first year, the burden has been taken off. So I'm assuming that you are referring to kids outside SHS or JHS or in the tertiary. Or private institutions. On that score, you probably have to start doing negotiations with the school. Because there's no way you can afford to pay that fees outright. It's a reality, it has hit you, so something has to be done. So you probably have to go for negotiations. Don't wait for your ward to be sacked from the school for not paying fees. Go now, probably issue some possessory checks based on expectations. So if it is that you are going to earn some income, if you can spread, you can give them a possessory check for the next 3 months. Apart from that, if that's possible. If that's not possible, if it's just all those other items, they probably will go for staff loan from your company. Now around these times, some companies will not do staff advances. They will tell you they themselves are starting the year and they want to start it right. They don't want to start the year by lending to staff, to employees. They are not banks. So they rather encourage you to go to the bank.
Right.
Now, because the bank would come at a cost, it should be the last thing that you do. So you have to exhaust all the negotiation ability.
Speak to family members?
Family members. If you have any assets, you can offload. If you have 3 cars, you can offload. The biggest challenge is that when you were spending those monies around Christmas or December, the family members saw the way you were spending. There's no way when you go to them for support, they will help you.
You might want to hold back.
They will hold back. So you have to now go on your negotiation skills. Apart from that, you have to look at other sources of income. If it is that you have 8 to 5 jobs, you have to evaluate properly and see whether you can have some multiple stream of income. This day and age, I know guys who are into laundry services. So they pick up the laundry staff of most of their friends at work, and they organize people to wash and iron for them. Monday morning, first thing Monday morning, so that Sunday, they deliver it to them at a small fee. These are the little things that you can use to enhance your income because you are already in the debt. But be as it may, I always will encourage companies, individuals, to plan ahead. Don't plan in January. Plan in November, December. add the January expenditure, the critical ones, especially the school fees, the rent, add it to your December expenditure, so that if you are spending, you spend something that covers you in January, so you don't have any headache in January.
Right. Mr. Okran, it's good to look generally at the corporate world, but for startups, young people who've just started, they want to become entrepreneurs, are there any do's and don'ts for them in the new year?
Right. So let me start with somebody who has an idea. You want to start a business with the idea, but you have not actualized it. Several times you find that people get brilliant ideas that they could turn into businesses, but actioning it is something that they never get to do because they talk about it a lot and they don't move from the point of talking to the point of action. And so one of the things that a person intending to start a business could do is to move beyond just having the idea to begin to look for the opportunity to actually make that idea a real business. And what would that require? It would require looking for a possible location, looking for a possible partner to do it with. And we always say that the idea is the most important thing. If the idea is good and the idea is well drilled, finding support to generate or to make it a reality is not as difficult as having the right idea, well thought through. And so convert your idea into a clear plan for execution, and then talk to the relevant people, talk to people who can partner with you to make that idea a reality. The first quarter of the year is a time for serious action. And for those who typically make resolutions and say, this year, I will do this, I will do that, and I will do this, and don't move in the month of January, you will find out that when January ends and February starts, you begin to feel despondent that the year, almost a tenth of the year is gone and nothing has happened. And so I would suggest that for anyone intending to either go into a business, grow a business, or actualize any concept of idea that they have, January is a time to break down your plan and move from planning to execution. And it involves finding the right people, finding the right location, and then connecting to the people who need your product. I think that one of the most important things is to ask yourself, this idea that I have, let's say you want to write a book. Who will read a book? Who will buy it? What age group are they? Where can they be found? How can I communicate with them? It may require, many people use lack of capital as their biggest excuse for inaction. Let me share with you an idea, an example that I found most exciting. And it was about this young man I met who was unemployed, but very desirous to work and to go into business. Now, Charles, interestingly, his mother is a fashion designer, a very good fashion designer at that. And so this young man gets a brilliant idea, not about producing, but about retailing fashion. So he takes what his mother has already sewn and designed, creates his own label, and then puts these products on social media, labels them beautifully, and then offers them to people who he knows will need these products. Interestingly, he gets far more rapid response to his products than even the mother, who technically is trained as a fashion designer. Very soon, many people are ordering on Facebook, sending orders on Facebook. So give me product A1. I like this design. My size is 14. Very soon, he was selling even more than his mother, who was originally the fashion designer. What does this mean? It means that with a good idea and locating your audience or your market properly, without any capital, you can actually start a business. It requires understanding who you are trying to reach and knowing the tools you can use to communicate with them.
Albert, quickly, Charles, quickly before we go, I know a lot of people have drawbacks from the past, and it keeps recurring. And how do you build on the failures of your past?
The first point is to admit that you had failed in the past. Because some people don't admit. Once you don't admit, you continue to fail. But if you admit that you failed, what were the causes of the failure? Appreciation of the causes will catapult you into success. Because that particular mistake that pushed you down, you will never go there again. One of the things that I would conclude on is salary increment. There's a possibility that most companies would give the employees some salary increment. Your lifestyle had been used to that old salary. That increment, expected increment, please, if it's possible for you, leave it at the bank. Don't touch it. Because don't say, I will use it in January and then February I will save. Immediately you touch that increment, your lifestyle adjusts up and it will be difficult for you to come to go back. So please, the salary increment, leave it at the bank. At the end of the day, that amount times 12 will give you a certain amount which you can invest in mutual funds. This is how we build fortunes. And I think that we should start from somewhere. And this salary increment would help. And we shouldn't spend on things that we feel we want. We should spend on things that we need. And that should be our watchword for 2018.
That should be our watchword for 2018. We should spend on what we need, not what we want. Any watchword?
I think that continuous improvement will be my watchword for anyone listening out there. If you want to reach a particular height in your financial life, Charles mentioned investment, or in your career, or in any aspect of your life, you will not get there overnight. And so don't set unrealistic goals for yourself and start getting frustrated by the second week of January or third week. Build a consistent program of continuous improvement. And once you do that, you will look back in June, look back in December and wonder how far you've been able to come.
I want to say a big thank you to you, gentlemen. These are big men with Charles Mensah of the Trust Consult and Reverend Albert Ocran, Legacy, and also a Reverend Minister. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. So we're going to take a short break. When we return, by popular demand, we're going to play back that interview with the CEO of DecoCraft. That's on our Move It segment tonight. We're back shortly. Hello, good evening, and welcome to your favorite program, The Mover Segments, live on TV3. Tonight, we are inside Ashoman Estate, and I'm going to be speaking to a young lady who is into the production of handmade chocolates. We're going to be finding out all about her business and what the future portends for her. She's the CEO of DecoCraft, Ikea Obenewa Donko. Ikea, good evening, and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You recently won an award at the Ghana Startup Awards. How does that make you feel?
It makes me happy and to know that it's people appreciate what I do. Yes.
I see. How long have you been doing this?
For 4 years now.
For 4 years now. Yes. What are handmade chocolates?
Handmade chocolate is unlike the store-bought ones. It's made more with the hands than with machines. Yes, or a few machines and then a little bit of manual work.
Yeah. So you started this 4 years ago. Yeah. Had you any experience in chocolate making?
No, actually it was new at that time, and I'm glad I was part of the first group of people that cocoa processing trained in handmade chocolate making. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see. And how many workers do you start with?
I was alone.
How much did you need to start up this whole business?
Initially, I started with $1,000. Okay. Fortunately, as soon as
you had $1,000 4 years ago.
No, not for me, for my dad.
Okay.
Yes. So as soon as I finished the course, I think I finished in December. By January, he gave me the $1,000 to start the company, or to start with the chocolate machines.
And how has the feedback been?
It's been good because the company has grown further onwards, yes. And now we can sell and buy our own machines.
Okay, you started by saying you had to start this all by yourself.
Yeah.
How many workers do you have now?
I have 3 permanent, and then we can go up to 20 when we have large orders. So we have some women on our list and a few men on our list that we call on when we have a huge order. Yeah.
Where do you source your raw materials from?
We work with cocoa mass, which is already grinded cocoa paste, and we buy it from a company in Tema. Yes.
All right, okay, so kindly take me through the process of producing handmade chocolate.
Okay, so
these are the cocoa beans?
These are cocoa beans.
Okay.
When it gets to our crafts, the companies, they roast it and then take off the shells and then they grind it for us and we buy it.
How much you buy? Is it expensive?
It's, let's say, $100 for 25 kilos.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And what does 25 kilos look like?
A box, a big box.
A big box?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite a big box,
okay.
Yeah. So when they give, that is, so cocoa beans that have been grinded is called cocoa mass. So that is what we buy, okay, and we bring it here and we start our processing. it comes here. This is what we call a crunching machine.
Okay.
So this is our own recipe. So we put in our ingredients, including the cocoa mass,
Okay.
to get this. So
Okay.
this is the chocolate, and it's ready to be molded.
Okay.
Okay, so this helps the chocolate to be very, very smooth. Yes.
All right. So from here,
From here, then we'll pour the chocolate out.
that's very liquid.
Yes. So this contains milk, sugar, cocoa butter, and cocoa mass.
Okay.
Yes. One thing about chocolate is that you can make it to suit what the client wants, or sometimes the client's health needs.
Okay.
So if you come to us and you tell us, I don't like sugar in my chocolates, you want us to use honey for it, we can use that for you.
All right. So from this stage, what next?
Then we come to the tempering stage, which is very important because that helps the chocolate to keep its shape even after it's being sold to someone. If you temper it well, it won't melt under Ghana's hot weather.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's been used for the measurement.
Yes, I was actually checking the temperature
Okay.
of the chocolate.
Okay. What's the required measurement?
Yeah. For milk chocolate is 30 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Yes. So
you have to stir it.
yeah, so that the temperature will come down.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We have machines for it, but I think over here we are faster with the hand. So
Okay.
we have our machines, but we don't use it because we prefer using the hand than the machines.
So how long is this process going to take you?
It can take up to 20 to 30 minutes. It depends on how hot it is.
Okay.
And if I had poured it earlier too, it would have taken less time for it to
Okay.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're done with this, you
Yeah.
pour it
Into the mold.
into the mold.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So sometimes we can make milk chocolate with granuts, milk chocolate with peanuts. We even have milk chocolate with plantain chips.
Okay.
Yes, and it's very crispy.
Okay.
So from here, we'll put it into the fridge.
Oh,
Yes.
you store it into the fridge.
Yes.
What are you looking out for?
Okay, so it's supposed to come out as solid. You see, this is liquid. So when you put it in the fridge, it will come out as solid. Then you can wrap it and package it.
Okay. Okay. 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes.
You've been doing this for 4 years. And how much do you produce in a day?
We can produce up to 300 chocolate bars in a day.
300 chocolate bars
Yes,
in a
yes.
day. For certain specific markets?
Okay, right now we do a lot of customization, but we also sell our popular brand, Greetings from Ghana.
Greetings from Ghana.
Yes, at Wild Gecko. Yes.
I
And
see.
we do a lot of fairs as well. We do chocolate shoes, chocolate bouquets. We have chocolate football. We do chocolate eggs at times. So it's like chocolate for specific occasions. That's what we are doing here. Whatever we get from the company, we are reinvesting in it. And trust me, if you had come here like 4 years ago, you wouldn't have met this place. So that shows how far we've come. And
So you're operating right from your parents' house?
yes.
Are they charging you?
They are not, but I pay electricity bill, and this
Okay.
place is FDA certified.
Wow.
Yes.
Which means what?
Which means FDA has given me permission to produce from here.
They come to inspect?
Yeah, they come to inspect.
You give them some to taste?
Yeah, I give them some to taste, and I take it to the lab, GSA, for it to be tested. So I have a certification for my product.
I see about 3 workers, all ladies. Is this
Yeah.
some kind of gender discrimination?
I like to work with ladies, and I believe as ladies we have to empower each other. So even with our part-time workers, most of them are women. Yes.
You need to get some men. you
We
know.
do, but
You need to.
I think we prefer the women.
I see.
Yeah.
They look excited.
Yeah.
Do they get to taste some?
Not when you're working.
Is that a rule here?
Yes, a rule here, no licking of hands.
But I can taste.
Yes, let me take
Okay,
the one
so just
from
get
the
me one
fridge,
so I can taste.
and then you can
I've
taste.
got the rare privilege of tasting whilst working. And trust me, if it's not nice, I'll tell you.
Okay, so this is the
So
chocolate.
It better be nice.
Yes. So this is how the chocolate looks like
Okay.
after we've brought it out of the fridge.
This is what you just put in?
Yes, this is what we
Okay.
just put in.
Okay.
So I'll just turn it. And you have this.
Can I keep the rest?
Sure, you can.
Okay, so it's very nice.
Okay, thank you.
And I love it.
Thank you.
What does the future look like for you?
So currently we want to expand. And as you can see, this.
How much do you need to expand?
$100,000.
$100,000.
Yes.
So assuming I were an angel investor,
Yeah.
would you give me equities in your business if I wanted to invest?
Yes, I would.
You would?
Yes.
You don't mind giving equity out?
No, I don't. If it's with the right investor, I don't have a problem.
Wow.
Yeah, that is the potential growth.
How organized is your business? I mean, I see workers here. You tell me about reinvesting your profits into the business.
Yeah.
How structured is it? Do you have accountants? Do you have auditors?
Okay, yes, we do. We even pay our taxes. We do the annual financial report to GRA. So this is not just, it's a small place, but we are trying to do the right thing.
So you've got an accountant?
Yes, accountant, but part-time, not full-time.
Okay.
Yes, who does our accounts?
All right, so you just watched a playback of our mover segment there with the Chief Executive Officer of DecoCraft. She's into the production of handmade chocolates. Well, that's how we wrap up for Business Focus for this week. That's been your weekly business and economic analysis program. Thanks very much for watching. My name is Parkwesi Asare. We wrap up here. We'll see you same time next week. News 360 is up next.